Hello everybody, it's Keith. Help support the Northeast scene and declare yourself a member today. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or your podcast medium of choice. Rate us and leave a review. Every little bit helps. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It has every podcast episode plus other exclusive content. Like and leave a comment. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TheNEScene. Also, continue to write us at northeastscene@gmail.com. We want to share your experiences as well. And now, here's the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Northeast Scene Podcast. This is Keith.
And Tommy.
And we're back. Again. Did you think we weren't going to come back? Well, you were sorely mistaken. We're here, Tommy. We're here.
We certainly are.
And we've got a special guest tonight, the triumphant return of Kevin Dye from Gates. Tommy, I was looking forward to him coming back to the show. Gates has a new EP coming out here and now. It comes out October 29th. I am beyond excited about this. And since Tommy and I are such big players in the music world now, we got an advanced listen. And let me tell you, you will not be disappointed. Tommy, what did you think of it?
I have a hard time with this because I love this band.
Yes.
That's one of those things where I immediately have going into it, I think I know I want to like it so bad, and I was not disappointed. They do such a great job of melding what I like about that type of, I don't even know what you would call that. Like kind of like emo rock. What would you call it? Like, yeah,
it's almost its own. It's emo influence for sure, just because of the level of emotion, and they do a lot. They do a lot of the emo. A part of emo has kind of segued into that delay rock thing.
Yes.
They do that, but it's not your typical fare. They incorporate a lot of different elements, and it's I don't know, it's like its own bigger thing.
Yeah, but getting back to what I was saying, like I think one of the things when I go into their listening, I love the idea when I hear them is that they have a very specific sound that they don't deviate far from. And I mean that in the kindest way possible. Like when I hear a Gates song, I can immediately recognize, oh, that's them.
When they dropped the first single, Where to Begin, as soon as the guitar started, I was like, oh my God, they're back. They're back. Like, and I got this feeling. We listen to a lot of music, but Gates has a special place in my heart. And just as soon as the song started up, I got like very emotional. I was like, oh my God, it's happening, because they were like the band I was listening to towards the end of Getting High. They were the band I was listening to when I got clean. They were the most significant band, I think, in early recovery for me. And Tommy, for our history, if you and I had a song, I would say it would be Walls by Gates, right?
100%.
That's our song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because, you know what? I think I sent that song to, I don't know, I might have sent it to some other people, but because you remember that Hard Times article? It's like lonely guy sends another unsolicited music recommendation.
Yes.
That used to be me. So like, but you're the only person who listened to it and liked it as much as I did.
Yeah, I think there's something about, and this is such a weird thing to latch onto with Gates, but because they have such a lush sound, but like one of the things that it kind of clicked with me right away, they have a really cool drumming pattern in the beginning, especially Walls has it. It's that tat 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 tat, and it's like it doesn't line up with everything else I listen to. For some reason, that's what jumped out at me immediately from the first listen. And I think after that, I really started to kind of hone in on things like what the lyrics were. And we actually had this conversation before, but I think their lyrics really have so many different meanings to you can take away what you want from it. Because we spoke about, when we talked with Kevin last time, like, hey, what is the meaning behind that? And he was like, well, it's kind of like, esoteric. It really has this. It's kind of nebulous. And it was like, oh, well, I took this from it. Like we took.
You know what? when I was listening to them a lot when I first got into early recovery, I was like, these guys, these are sober guys. Like they're
Yeah.
into recovery. Like I was convinced that the messaging was like where my head was at the time. And you know what? I think that's indicative of an incredibly talented songwriter.
And what's the line? Isn't it beautiful to be where we began? Is that the
Yeah.
line? Like, I mean, that's like one of those things of like, it's starting over. Like
Yeah.
it's, it's that fresh start. Like, okay, now I can kind of focus on getting better.
And they have a pretty flawless discography. They have the first EP, which has Walls. That's our song, Tommy.
Yeah.
They have the EP after that, which is the first one I heard, You Are All You Have Left to Fear. And that has the 1-2 punch of To Those Who Fell and To Those Who Carry On. Two of their most iconic songs. They have Bloom and Breathe, the first LP, which is just unbelievably good. They have the follow-up, Parallel Lives, which is unbelievably good. And now, 5 years later, they'll have Here and Now. We highly recommend it. Check it out. I'm excited, Tommy.
I'm really excited for it too. And what was the date again? October 29th?
Yes. So we're excited to speak to Kevin, and we've listened to some more. Now, Tommy, there's so much new music coming out, we can hardly keep up.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss some more of it now. Circa Survive, Tommy.
Yeah, I actually, it was funny when I first listened to this. The first thing that came to mind was like, yet again, Circa Survive has reinvented themselves, a completely new direction. But again, a same band where you hear a Circa song, and I think one of the things is that's instantly recognizable is Anthony's vocals. But it's the same band, but they've always done something new and fresh, and something that has kind of made me tilt my head at first and made me really sit down and listen multiple times. I think
this time even more so.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of I put it on when it came out on YouTube, and I didn't even know I had the video playing, and my daughters know who Anthony is, and I had the phone up, but I was doing the dishes and I wasn't listening, and Evelyn was like, "Why is Anthony getting his hair cut like that?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I looked over and I was like, "Oh, the video. Oh, okay. Holy cow!"
Didn't that look painful?
It looked.
I could feel the plastic blades they put on those clippers. I could like feel it rubbing against my head. I was like, "Ouch, that must have hurt."
I texted you. The video is the world's most violent haircut.
Well, the song is great. I like it a lot. Imposter Syndrome. Check out the song and video, folks. There's a definite change in sound.
Yeah.
The beginning is really different, I think, from what they typically do. And then it kind of rolls over into, I guess, the more standard Circa Survive sound. But I'm excited to see what they're going to bring us with this EP. It sounds like they're doing something different. I like the cover art for the EP, Tommy. Even that looks different.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you say that guy's name. Esau
Andrews?
Esau Andrews.
I think,
It's always, those are the things that I've seen so many people that have that, what was it, Joe Turner tattoo.
Yeah.
But there's something that resonates with a lot of people about that artwork. And when I saw that artwork the first time, I was scrolling through Instagram and kind of glanced at it. He really does. It looks like a photograph.
Yes. Wait, isn't it? It looks like a photograph with a mural in the background.
I honestly think that guy is so good. I think he does what that people call hyper realism.
Oh.
So I think that's all oil. I think that's an oil painting.
Wow.
We'll have to ask somebody in the band to clarify that, but I think that there are people out there. There's a guy I follow on Instagram called Darren Reed who does the same thing. It's called hyper realism, and they really make things look like an actual photograph.
Well, if that's the case, props to Esau, because that is amazing. The EP is called A Dream About Love. It's out October 22nd. Check it out. And once again, the new song is Imposter Syndrome. Check out the video. Check out the song. It is out there. And Tommy, one more piece of music we have listened to.
Yes.
Our friend Jimmy Rhodes. He was on the show on episode 58 of our podcast. Go check it out. He's been in tons of great bands. But his new band, Burial Waves,
so good,
has an EP coming out, Holy Ground. That comes out on Dark Operative November 12th. Now, this thing Wow. We got an advanced listen. Tommy, this thing was so good.
Dude, this one hits heavy. This one
Yes,
hits.
that first song, when that guitar comes in, I was like, oh my God, this thing is, wow. This is really good.
And they do, okay, so do you guys remember that band Block Party? Like not Block BOLCK, like BLOC. Like
I know the name.
Okay. They kind of like walk the line between like Block Party and then something much heavy, like a heavier version of that. Something like along the kind of like really heavy shoegaze stuff. I almost kind of think like it's the brutality stuff, like where it's beautiful.
Yes, we got to bring that word back.
Yes, it's the beautifully heavy, but they do a really great job of kind of starting out with that. They have a Code 7 kind of feel where it's like shoegazy, lots of angular guitar stuff, very, very cool, synthy kind of thing, and then it kind of blows up and gets into these very, very heavy parts. Really great.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and they did a studio version of Cinema Shame. That was the live video that they had before they had anything out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that song is so good. So congrats, Jimmy. And yeah, listen to his episode if you haven't heard it, episode 58 of our podcast. It's good. That
was the standout track for me, was Cinema Shame, Lightheads, and then the last one I really, really liked was The Guest.
We are right in sync, Tommy, and that is why we do this show together.
Is it?
Yeah, honestly,
I thought it was just because we were friends.
No, not just because we're friends. You and I, our musical taste syncs up more than most people that I know. Like I would throw songs to you, you would actually listen to them. We would go to shows together. Our musical taste seems to be pretty in sync, and these are the reasons we do this show together.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Is that if you like something. Like, and you have that kind of like immediate, like, I love this band type reaction.
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to like it.
Yes.
I remember when you sent me tracks from Holy Fawn years ago, like, 2-3 years ago, I was like, oh, okay. And I put off listening to it. What a fucking mistake that was. Like, because then I listened to it in my car and I was like, kind of half paying attention. And God, what a fucking amazing band. And that was one of those ones that I was like, yo, Keith and I are on the same page. Like when he really feels passionately about something, it's something that I'm on 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be 100% behind it. Like it's going to be something that I'm really into.
Yeah. If I'm sending a song out now, it's the real deal. It's not just, oh, this is cool, check it out. So when people don't listen to it, I'm very judgmental because I'm like, look, I'm gifting this to you on a silver platter and you dare not listen to it. No, I'm just kidding. I pretty much only send songs to you and Vadim. And, if you listen, you listen. If you don't, it's fine. It'll come back around. It always does.
Yeah.
Well, listen, folks, we're out of time for the first segment, but we're going to talk to Kevin Dye from Gates now. But listen, check back in with us in segment 3 to see how we are doing. We've got a lot of news, Tommy.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to talk to Kevin Dye. Enjoy. All right, folks, we're here now with Kevin Dye. Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
It's very good to have you back. Now, there's a lot going on in the world of Gates. We've got a new single. We've got a new EP coming up. We've got a tour, and we're going to get to all that. But Kevin, I have to know, how the hell have you been? It's been like over a year since we've spoken to you.
It has. Last time we spoke, I was in Brooklyn and I was recording in my bedroom. I remember I ran all my cables and everything from my studio into my bedroom because it was so hot. I couldn't run the AC in there because it would be super loud.
Yeah.
And I've since moved to Nashville and I'm in my studio now and it's fully air conditioned and feels amazing. So I'm a little more comfortable this time, I gotta say.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wait, you live in Nashville now?
Yep.
Wow. This whole time I thought, oh, maybe Kevin is still right over there in Greenpoint, but no, you're gone.
Nope. Me and my wife moved here in November of last year. So it's been about a year.
Wow. So how do you like it?
It's really nice. Honestly, it's awesome. It's just like a completely different pace. Like New York City just gets very intense. And I think during obviously during the whole of last year, you start thinking about a lot of different things. And, living in New York, I had 4 jobs, and I didn't really want to be doing that kind of like hustle anymore, So we were just trying to figure out, Sarah started working remote. Sarah, my wife, started working remote. So that was kind of that final piece there. We're like, oh, well, we could probably live anywhere now. We should try to do this. Well, it's a possibility. And, we thought of places to move, and Nashville was high on the list. We got a couple friends here. It's obviously like a music town. So we were like, let's just go check it out. If we don't like it, we can always try something else. But it just seemed like a good time to try something like that out, So, and we're loving it so far. It's really cool. We got a yard for our dog, and we were able to like afford a car. My car got like towed off my Brooklyn driveway like 3 years ago, and I haven't been able to afford one since. So it's just like really nice to be able to kind of have those things, and yeah, it's working out good. And then I just fly home whenever Gates is, rehearsing, or we shot our video, or I've just been doing that. And honestly, it's still somehow cheaper than living in Brooklyn and driving. And honestly, I think it takes me less time to fly into Brooklyn than it takes for us to drive up to Kingston, where we practice now. So it's like,
Wow.
it's not that, time consuming or anything like that. So it's kind of been really nice.
That sounds great. Yeah, I imagine a big front yard and backyard and like a porch and all this stuff. Am I close?
The front yard is not huge. We don't really use it. It's just kind of there. Our backyard is like fenced in, and we have a nice deck. My parents got me a grill like right when we moved here, so I just grill like every single day. Our yard is like perfect for our dog, and there's a little like a shed in the back, so I've been using that. It's just like a really nice setup. It's we had a pretty great spot in Brooklyn, admittedly. All during the pandemic, we had like set up a kiddie pool in the driveway there that we could, it was also fenced off, and we would just sit there and like drink White Claws and listen to like country music or pop music, and just like put our feet in the pool and just sit there with our dog all this. So like we had an outdoor space we could kind of use, but it's just nice to have our own yard here. And again, it's just like a really relaxed vibe. And to be quite honest with you, my work as a producer and engineer picked up pretty quickly in the second half of last year. And I don't think I could have done what I'm doing right now in Brooklyn, because the room that I was working out of there, like I said, we didn't have central air conditioning. So I was running a window air conditioning unit that was like in the wall underneath my desk. So it's kind of just blowing on like my legs. And then whenever I needed to listen to something or record something, I had to turn it off and then quickly do what I was doing and then turn it back on. And, it didn't really, when you're running all this gear, it's just so hot anyway. It's not doing anything. So I don't think I could have pulled it off. Like,
I know where you're coming from, because even recording this podcast during the boiling summer months to cut down on the outside noise, Tommy will close the door and windows in his basement. I'll close the window because I'm recording right next to a window that faces a street in Brooklyn. So I got to close that. And we're literally boiling alive, rushing to finish the podcast so we can open the window again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's stuff like that where I'm like, I think we traded that off because we were in New York City and in Brooklyn, and there was always so much stuff going on, and we knew a ton of people who lived there. And it's obviously, I still think it's the greatest city. I've been to quite a few, and it's definitely the greatest one that I've been to. So I miss it. We both miss it a lot. We miss our friends there. But like, it's just, we're home all the time now. Our lives have changed a little bit. So it just feels more comfortable. It's just easier to kind of get through the day to day here than it is to kind of just, like I said, be living at that like pace. One of my really good friends said that when I asked him, he lives here, and I asked him about living here, and he was like, yeah, man, I feel like you need to switch up the pace of the New York lifestyle, because I can't imagine just living at that speed forever. And that really has proven to be true. I feel like everything's a little more chill here, a little more relaxed. But the one big problem that I've found is that you can't get food after like 10 p.m. Honestly, you just like in New York, you just take that for granted. Like you just go to a bodega and get a sandwich whenever you want.
Anytime.
And it's
Yeah.
like, that's the one thing, like me and my wife have just been like the other day, we like went to some beer festival or something and we didn't eat beforehand. We're like, oh, we'll just like get some food truck stuff. And the lines were super long. So they're like, oh, we'll just go to a bar then and we'll just get food. Well, there wasn't any. You know, by the time it was over, you just couldn't eat. So it was like, you're just done. You're not eating till the next day. So it's kind of funny. It's like, all right, I think there might be spots we just haven't discovered yet, but it seems like that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I find that when I travel, I don't eat as much. I'm so stuck on the food here. You know, you can only get good bagels here. You can only get good pizza here, and well, that's pretty much what I eat. So, like, you know, at the airport, I'll just eat Cliff Bars, or you know, if I'm in the Midwest, I'll eat Chick-fil-A or something. It's like I'm just stuck on the food here. And like you said, it's 24/7. You know, if it's 11 p.m., I could still Uber Eats Popeyes or McDonald's if I want. I could walk 2 blocks away to the bodega and get whatever I want.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. That's definitely something that I think I took for granted living in New York for sure. I actually, when I was back rehearsing for the tour with Gates, I brought like a dozen bagels back in my bag.
Yes.
And a couple of our friends here have lived in New York too, and I surprised them by, you know, they all came over to watch F1. We all watched Formula One racing together, and I surprised them with the bagels, and they were like really, really excited because it is true. I don't know why, but you just can't find those anywhere else. Like they try to make them kind of like that in other places, but it's not the same thing.
Not even close.
No,
Not
I
even
don't
close.
get it. You know, like everyone has their reasoning for that, and it's like, you know, a tale as old as time, but I really can't figure out why it's not the same thing. It's just bread. Like,
Yeah. I don't know what they do. And listen, the pizza thing, I can have some leeway there. I've had good pizza in other states. I've even had good pizza on the West Coast. Like, to me, I eat so much pizza, it's just whatever. I think I could adapt. But bagels, there is nothing like bagels in the New York, Connecticut, I don't know, whatever else area. There's just nothing else like it.
nope. I think one thing I noticed here is like there are a couple places that try to do it. They're like afraid of not having a hole in the middle or something. I'm like, no, like the bagels are just they're huge. You know, there's no actual hole in the middle. Like, and here you can see, like you can put your fingers through the hole. I'm like, that's not how it is. It's supposed to be just like swollen and huge. You know, it's
Right.
like there's just things like that where I'm like, can they not get them that big? Are they trying to not make them like that? Are they like adjusting for the people who have only eaten Lender's bagels here their whole life and they don't know what that is?
I think
you
that's
know?
it.
Yeah, it's just it is. It seems like it has to be totally possible. And me and a bunch of my friends here that lived in New York, we've been talking about opening like a bodega or something, because you're like, that is the simplest possible business. You just have stuff in a store and then you have like a deli counter. And there's nothing like that here where you can just go and just get stuff. I feel like if you open one and you even just stayed open till like 2 a.m, you'd make a killing, you know? It just
Yeah.
doesn't exist here. It's super weird.
Yeah, like I was down in Alabama for Furnace Fest, and it was, if I had wanted to get food after 11 p.m., it seems like it would be impossible.
Yeah. I'm by the way, I'm super jealous of you guys going. Did you both go to Furnace Fest?
Only me. Tommy
Okay.
Tommy had some, well, Tommy has a family, so he's on duty, man. But me, I got nothing, so I can just go wherever.
That's awesome. I want to email them and just be like, let us play. I just want to go, like, I want to go. And that's like always the easiest way, like that I can think of, where we're like, well, we could play a set and then I get to see every single band that plays, you know?
You should be on it, absolutely. I mean, why not? And I got to be a stage potato for Mineral. That's a dream come true.
When you looked at the lineup for that, I was like, this is just nuts. Like I can't believe they got all of these bands to play this. Like half of which seemingly, I'm like, I don't remember the last time I saw that band on a flyer. You know, like
Exactly.
it was so awesome. Like,
I barely even checked the lineup before I went. I'm like so absent-minded and busy all the time. I got there and sat down with my friend and looked at the schedule, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this all
awesome,
happening
though.
on one show?
you just like
Kevin,
showed up, you had no clue what it was going to be, and you were just like, Okay.
I
Yeah,
had
this is
some
sweet.
idea, but I didn't realize Sunday was so packed. I was like, "Holy shit!" It's just like when you sit down and see it all together, it's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that was just seeing all the videos from that and everything is just nuts. Like yeah, I'm really jealous of everyone who went. A bunch of friends of mine ended up going, like the vinyl guys. There's a bunch of guys that I met just because they kind of like post pictures of Gates vinyl, like they've tagged us, and then I just follow them because I like seeing all the vinyl they post. And yeah, a bunch of those guys went, and it looked awesome. Like everything they were posting looked amazing.
Yeah, I don't want to rub it in, but it was one of the best weekends of my life because I haven't taken a personal trip in a long time. I got to reconnect with some people, and it was just, it's just one of those memorable weekends.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's what you want those to be,
Oh
So
yeah.
it seemed like it was that for a lot of people, which is to me the ideal kind of festival situation. I'm not a huge fan of just like going to festivals in general, but there's a couple like I played Riot Fest a couple years ago with a band called Dead Swords, and that was Riot Fest is also really really cool. It's just like a lot of friends, a lot of bands that I've always wanted to see and didn't get a chance to see. So those kind of festivals are just to me like really really cool experience. That's where I understand like why people like those, like because most of the time it's a lot of artists that like I might not know or only a couple bands I know, and because I'm old now and it's not necessarily meant for me. But when it is something that's like a bunch of bands like that I like listen to still or grew up listening to, it's like really, really cool.
It's an endurance test. I don't know how I did it when I was younger. I was like, did I not need to sit when I was younger? Did I not need to eat? Like, what did I do? Because most of day 3, I just had to sit because I was so exhausted.
Yeah, for sure. Like a Warp Tour, like how did I do that? And I was probably carrying like 7 shirts around all day, like
Exactly.
and like a pile of CDs.
We had this discussion when we were talking about the bands that were on Furnace Fest. Kevin, do you know, are you a big fan of Appleseed Cast?
Yes.
Okay. Because Keith was like, I don't really know them that well. And it was like, we went back and forth on, like, he named like 3 bands in a row. And I was like, I don't really know them that well.
Oh, yeah.
They were like huge bands. I was like, I don't know. But Appleseed Cast, I like literally own everything. Like that was one of those bands that when I saw them on there, I was like, oh.
I got upset because Tommy doesn't know Mineral like heavy, like I do. So I got a little upset, but I don't know Appleseed Cast. So you give and you take.
Yeah, I mean, both of those bands they fall into the category of when Gates first started, people kept telling me that our band sounded like those bands. And so I went and listened to them. Like it was of that. I had never heard Mineral or Appleseed Cast. I found Peregrine by Appleseed Cast in like a dollar bin in Queens, like in some market. And I bought it and was like, whoa, this is really cool. Then, I think Ethan listened to both of those bands a little bit or something. He, let me Low Level Owl. And so I started listening to that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. It was definitely one of those weird reverse situations where people were like, oh, I'm certain you love Mineral, right? And I'm like, I've never heard a song of theirs. But like, after listening to that, it's obviously like, oh yeah, cool. They must have been inspired I think they probably inspired the bands that I listened to. I think that's probably what it was a lot of the bands that I listened to and was taking inspiration from were probably inspired by Mineral. So it was like a telephone thing. Like I was two generations away or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say you're 3rd generation Appleseed Cast.
Exactly. So that's what the story is with those bands for me. But it's like fucking awesome. There's just so many of those. Like I said, so many bands on there where you're like, yeah. And it seemed like it was one of those things where it was like, just like you said, I could not know 3 bands that someone else like loved, but there was still enough on there for basically anyone who was at all part of this kind of scene of music to like go and enjoy pretty much music nonstop all day, all 3 days, like, which is crazy. That's pretty hard to do at a festival. So.
Yeah, so they did a great job. And Kevin, that's interesting that you say you hadn't heard Mineral before performing in Gates because that was one of the first bands that came to mind. I'm like, it's not exactly the same because you guys aren't as slow and brooding as Mineral tends to be. I guess I thought of it as maybe like a speedier, poppier Mineral.
Yeah, again, I was just like one of those things. I think it might have been, especially early on with Sun Will Rise, kind of the rawness of it. Like,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
recorded
Yep.
that just like straight in. I don't think we edited anything. It was just like, all right, that's a good one, like, all right, next instrument, and I was definitely trying really hard on that record, but like we only had so much capability to do stuff. So it was basically like you go straight in and you do what you can do, and then that was exactly what was on the record. So when I hear Mineral, I don't hear like, I hear that and Sunny Day and bands like that like, a lot of people were saying we like had the spirit of, and I think it was because initially it was like that, and then when you moved into like our next EP and things like that, it was like that's when we started getting compared to the Appleseed cast, because they were still a little raw, but they had like interesting production ideas and like kind of like started making these like flowing, interesting records. So then, that kind of came into play where it was like, all right, I got to check that band out now, So, yeah, it is kind of interesting. Again, it's like you're going for something similar. So then you end up sounding like a band you've never heard of, which is why I honestly, a lot of times when I see like these lawsuits and everything flying around, like the recent one with Olivia Rodrigo having to pay like Paramore because the song is like the spirit of the Paramore song. I'm like, all right, like at a certain point, this doesn't become fun anymore. Like I get when you totally rip a song off, but if it doesn't have an exact copy of that, like, and people are using samples all the time and getting them cleared and everything, but like that wasn't even a sample. It was just like the song kind of reminded you of a Paramore song, and it's like, I don't know about that.
There's a guy out there, Adam Neely on YouTube, that
Oh,
did like
yeah.
a really, really good breakdown of it. And he must have like a legal background, but he talked about, they use a word called interpolation. And it really just means that it's kind of like what you said. It's like when you take an essence of the song, so whether it's the chord progression or the vocal pattern, and you use that to create something new.
Right.
So it's not, it's almost like sampling, it's like sampling like you would do with like a hip hop song, but rather than taking like a portion of it, you're taking like the progression of the chords or whatever it is, like the vocal stylings, and you're using that to create something new. But, he did a really good job of, if you look it up on YouTube, he plays both of the songs at the same time, but he also makes the argument of like, there's tons of other songs like this, like Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day is the exact same chords, just played at a slower tempo. Like, why didn't they get sued?
Right.
You know what it comes down to is when something is generating a lot of money, that's when the vultures come out. If Olivia Rodrigo was an indie artist who wasn't generating any sales, there would be no lawsuit. But she's a absolute sensation.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to get paid. Who knows? Paramore might not even have anything to do with this lawsuit. It might be her record company or...
I highly doubt they did. I mean, like, at that point, when you're a Paramore level band, I feel like that stuff just... I mean, dude, I'm not a Paramore level band. Sometimes, like, something happens and you're like, why is that going on? You know what I mean? Like, things just happen and you have to go back and be like, okay, we have to discuss this. You know what I mean? It's like on that level, like legally and financially, they have money coming in that they probably are getting paid royalties for albums that are like 15, 20 years old or whatever. It's like they probably didn't initiate that. I remember the Tom Petty thing with Sam Smith too. Like Tom Petty being like, I had nothing to do with this. Like, it's like his estate or whoever owns the songs was the one that like put that lawsuit forth. So I get it to an extent, and I think again I've migrated over the years on my stance on this, but like back in the day I would have been really pissed off if anyone was quote unquote ripping off another artist, and then I'm like, dude, there's just so many things you could have said I ripped off of all my favorite bands. You know what I mean? Like that's called influence. Like you listen to a band, you think it's cool, and then you're like, how can I make this my own thing? How can I make this cool and me about me and how can me and my bandmates combine all of our versions of that into something new? And that's all being in a band is. So
yeah, everything's been done. You just take it and you put your own spin on it.
It's really, yeah, you're definitely right. Like she's making a ton of money. So someone's like, we could make millions if we even get like 1 point on this thing. So
we could take a 0.5% and still make millions.
yeah.
Like,
Which, by the way, speaking about her, like her producer Dan, he was in this band As Tall as Lions that I was like a punisher for. Like I used to like go to every one of their shows, and like he did it to himself. Honestly, I met him at a show, and then he like played me their record before it was out on an iPod, you know, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this guy must think I'm cool. And then I just started going to all their shows, and then you could start to tell, like I started to get older and started to realize like he'd see me and be like, oh shit, I got to talk to this guy again. You know? Like, but yeah, like he produced like her entire record, a lot of it. So that's awesome. Like his band was really, really cool and influential. Our producer for our two full lengths, Mike Watts, did their self-titled record, and it was a huge reason why we wanted to work with him and everything. So I heard that song, and then I saw that he was the producer on it, and I was like, that is insane. That's awesome. Like he's getting, you know, all of the success that he deserved for many, many years writing, you know, this super underappreciated band. So kudos to him. And that's awesome that, you know, he was able to work with such a talented artist and make humongous hits. So
it also speaks about, you know, the perseverance of someone like that, you know, didn't give up and be like, oh, look, I made awesome music and not as many people listen to it. And now you're like, well, I'll just continue like working with people making music. That's great.
For sure. I read an interview with him, and his point of view on it was very, very optimistic. You know, I don't think at the end of his band, he was basically like, you know, I wasn't having fun anymore. And then I started producing people, and it was really fun. And I was like, this is what I like about music, you know? And I find that a lot too. Like I love being in Gates. Obviously I wouldn't be like flying back to New York from Nashville to continue to do this if I didn't like playing in Gates and hanging out with those guys and writing music, and just didn't feel fulfilled by that. But there is a level of like, interest and just kind of like a completely different feeling you get when you're working on someone else's stuff versus your own, you know, like the mixing for instance, like mixing music is my favorite thing to do, hands down, but mixing Gates is my least favorite thing to do. It's like totally different, where you're like, oh man, like I can't hear it the same way. Whereas like someone hands you their song, you're coming in with this outside perspective, and you can kind of just make it, you know, a little bit of your own and kind of try to make it exactly how they envisioned it always. So I can see why he might have gotten to that point where he was like, yeah, I'm not really having fun doing this band thing anymore. But then that part of it, which luckily, you know, there's also the whole aspect of like, you get older, you don't want to tour anymore, maybe, you know, like it allows you to still be involved in music and making records and everything, but just in a different way. So I'm really glad that he went down that road and got into like songwriting and producing, because he's obviously super talented and awesome at it, because you know he's made these mega hits now. So
if you see him again, would you slide him a thumb drive with some Gates on it and be like, look what I'm doing now?
Oh, I'm sure Mike Watts like played it for him at some point, you know what I mean? But yeah, like dude, if I ever saw him, I would just run the other way, because I like punished, seriously, like at the end, I remember I drove 14 hours to see this band called The Receiving End of Sirens play their last show. And he was there at the show, and he was at like a pizza shop next door when the show was over. And I went into the pizza shop, and like he was standing there. I was like, oh, hey, how's it going, dude? And he was like, why are you here? Like that's what he said, you know? And I was like, yeah, it's all right, man. Like I'm old enough now where I figured out what was going on, and like, you're good. I'm not going to like make you talk to me for 4 hours about your recording your record and all this crazy, you know. It's just like an enthusiastic kid who would go up to these artists that I really, really loved and want to know all about their records. And at a certain point, they were probably like, he's probably like, I got to sing tomorrow. I can't talk to this dude in a bar for 4 hours, you know? So like, I totally understand where he's coming from now. I would run the other way, and hopefully he would feel good about that. Oh God, I don't have to talk to that guy.
That's funny. Yeah, like at Furnace Fest, I saw a lot of people that I spoke to on the show, but I was so self-conscious and I'm just self-conscious and kind of introverted to begin with. But I was like, oh man, I don't want to embarrass I don't want to bother anybody. and if it goes badly, I just won't be able to handle it. So most people I just didn't even talk to.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I'm super 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 introverted. Like I do really enjoy talking to Gates fans and everything. I'm so awkward and weird that it's weird for me. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
and it's sometimes it's really really strange because they want to talk to me about my lyrics or something really personal.
And the lyrics are deeply personal, and
Mhm.
it's like heavy, heavy stuff. So it's not something you can just launch into in a conversation right after you play.
And I gotta admit, I'm better at that than like small talk. You know, like I'm better at just jumping into something really intense. But it does sometimes you're like, oh man, like I don't know what to say. I mean, no one knows what to say when like someone's gone through something kind of like tragic. You know, it's always difficult to think of what to say. So and then you're just like, oh, I'm bummed someone had to go through something similar, but at the same time, usually they're trying to tell me that the songs and the music helped them through this thing. So I'm usually able to kind of, flip it into a positive thing like that. But yeah, it's definitely like, sometimes it's definitely hard for me to kind of talk to people. So apologies to anyone who ever came up to me and was like, that guy was kind of a dick. Like, I'm honestly trying as hard as I can to not be like, super awkward, but yeah, it's like it's definitely a little pulling teeth with me to have a conversation.
Yeah, so folks, with awkward people like myself and Kevin, I've learned that people aren't necessarily dicks. They're just awkward. I watch people talk to other people at Furnace Fest and they don't know what to do. They freeze. They're like, thanks. I think most artists are just awkward people.
Yeah, especially in this scene. I feel like they're all kind of. I've found in the past couple of years, I just kind of preface it a lot of times. People like, I'm super introverted, and I sometimes am awkward. So I'm just gonna say it, and people are like, cool, and like especially people who are able to handle social conversations, they're like super like generous and nice about it. They know what it's. They seem to understand that you might not be able to carry that conversation the way they can. So I think just by being more open about that, it's the conversations and interactions have gotten easier because I'm just like, yeah, if it goes weird, you know why? Because I told you right off the bat. So but yeah, and I think especially now people are getting, even if you didn't have that kind of social anxiety, you probably have a little bit of it now, having been locked in the house for a year and then have to be shot back into the real world. So
I'm only beginning to return back to normal. I'm getting outside a lot more and seeing a lot more people. I feel a lot more normal, but that took months.
Yeah, I mean, it's still weird for me. I went to see Thrice this week, and it was like the masks things here. It's totally not. No one wears them. It's like, and I usually wear mine everywhere, but I was with some friends and they weren't, and no one else was in the venue. So I was like, I'm vaccinated. I'm gonna just do that. I also don't see anybody. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna go home and sit in my house for the next week. So, but it just felt really weird, and I felt weird about it. And then I remember I was thinking like maybe the band was pissed off that like no one had masks on, and now I feel really weird, and I should have worn one. It's like, and then you just don't want to go out again. It's just like it's like overwhelming to have the responsibility still when so many people are being irresponsible about it, that you're like, okay, well, if they're going to be horribly irresponsible about it, you start to bargain in your head about trying to not be a good person anymore, and you're like, I don't want to do this. Like, I just want to not go anywhere, and then I don't have to think about any of this stuff. So I totally feel it. It's definitely difficult still with the way things are in this kind of weird limbo where everything's like open and cool, but like if you don't feel comfortable, you can't really go there without having all these weird clashing feelings in your head.
Yeah. And if it's an indoor thing and there's a lot of people crowded around me, like a show, I would still wear a mask. Like at Furnace Fest, even though it was outdoors, if there was a lot of people around me, I wore a mask, even though I was the only person, because I'm still scared of getting the virus. I'm vaccinated, but like I don't want the virus.
I don't want to get sick, period. I used to get sick 5 times a year, and we've talked about this before. Obviously, I had my own health problems going on that contributed to that. But like, I think it's just like, there's a certain aspect of it where like I just have this weird social anxiety problems that lead to like certain things, and then you like wake up the next day feeling like you did something horribly wrong by
Yes.
just going into public, like, and then I overthink it for like 3 days where I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, and it's like I used to feel that way anyway, and now there's just all this other added pressure from all this stuff, and it pales in comparison to like other issues that we got going on. But like it for me, it's just easier sometimes to just stay at home. It was always easier for me to stay at home, so I tend to lean towards I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to go and keep working or something, work on some music in my house, and maybe invite some friends over and kind of stay inside. So
Yeah, all my toys are at home. I like being here, but I'm happy to hear you talk about this because it sounds like you overthink things as much as I do. Like, again, being at the fest, there was people I didn't get to say hi to because I'm like, oh, they're busy, they're setting up, I don't want to bother them. And then I left and I'm like, oh, now they're mad at me because I didn't say hi to them, even though
Dude.
they didn't even see me.
sounds so familiar.
It's just these mental gymnastics of ridiculous stuff that I make up.
Yep, totally. Yeah, that was one thing I had a life coach for a while, and she taught me. It was like the story that you're telling yourself, like, and then if you can't find evidence to back that story up, then it's probably not true. So I kind of have to tell myself all the time where I'm like, I think I made that person mad by doing anything. Like you said, you can't win. Most of the time in my head, I can't win. If X didn't happen, then I must have messed something up in the conversation. I've kind of learned to try to evaluate it from like that kind of like logical standpoint and not be so emotional about it, where it's like, if there is no logical reason why that would happen, then it's not true, And then the second part of that is just ask someone straight up, just be like, did you feel weird about that thing I did? And I'll be like, no. And be like, oh, cool. It's like after so many years, just realizing I can just straight up ask people and get the answer, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, yeah, again, most people are gracious and understanding, at least the people I hang out with. So they're, very willing to give you that angle and just, free you from your own like mind trap that you've created.
I just tell myself, no one's thinking about you. It's my own ego telling me that everyone is obsessing about me and concerned with what I'm doing. No one's thinking about me.
Exactly. No one really cares. Like, dude, I've done a few, podcasts for this, and every time I just like stop, I'm like, oh my God, dude, like, what did I say? It didn't matter what. I could sit here and say nothing, and I'd still be like, oh my God, I probably said something really stupid, And then people will hit me up and be like, really enjoyed the podcast. I'm like, all right, well, there's no evidence I said anything stupid yet. So
you know what my favorite thing about this format is, Kevin? It's not live.
Yeah.
I can make us sound fucking fantastic in post-production.
Exactly.
And I do. Well, Kevin, I want to talk about this new Gates music that we have coming up. This is very exciting. Folks, the new EP is called Here and Now. It's coming out October 29th. Yes?
Correct.
All right, and we've got a new single out there, Where to Begin. And where to begin, Kevin? I mean, we've been working on this thing for a long time. I think you were working on this still last time we spoke to you in August of 2020, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of work has gone into this. I've listened to the single many times. I mean, I love the music of Gates. It always touches me emotionally. And so let's talk about this a little bit. So in August of 2020, we were talking to you. We were still working on the record. So when you're working on the record, how much hand do you have in the engineering? Are you producing it along with recording it?
Yeah, for this EP, I did almost all of it. Rob Freeman, who owns Audio Pilot Studio, where we recorded probably 90% of what's on the record, he recorded some of my vocals. So I didn't have to, once again, overthink every single aspect of it. It's a lot easier when you have somebody you trust kind of sitting there being like, that was a good take. I think when I tried to record my own vocals, I did like 50 takes, and he did, I think, for one of the songs, he did 2 takes. the whole song? I was like, it's done. And then I went in and listened to it and was like, oh, it is done. Wow. Like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't have to do a million takes. So he helped out when I really, really needed like somebody to kind of like give me that opinion there. But everything else was me. We had our friend Trevor Riddell, who was the drummer of a band called Forgivers, and he drummed in Dead Swords and then a ton of other bands. He came in and did some like drum engineering. So every time we did drums, he came in, like tuned the drums, and then I would kind of give him a rundown of what we were looking for. Like, we're looking for a really dead, like kind of Radiohead sound. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, let's put these heads on it. Let's use this kick drum. Let's put it up here in the loft, and let's put a bunch of foam around the snare. So like him and I kind of did the drum stuff together. I just wanted I wanted somebody that was like a drummer to come in. And so for him, both me, Dan, we could have somebody that like objectively could figure out how to get what we were looking for. And then I did everything else. So we have these vignettes that we've been posting online that we'll continue to post. One of them was supposed to go up today, but like Facebook and Instagram have not been working all day, but they're little studio, like 1 minute clips of us in the studio. And I think Mike, our bassist, made them, and they're a really, really good, like fly on the wall, like kind of way to see what it was like to work on this record. Cause we did like a studio doc for Parallel Lives, but we like sat down and like, I think Mike might have even like interviewed us himself. And like, it just was like, when you're getting that, it's not this like pure thing where you actually see what we did. You're kind of like hearing from us what our intention was, whereas these videos to me are like just this perfect encapsulation of what it was like to keep going into the studio and record these songs. You can see that we did it over a really long period of time. Like, we all got our jackets on and we have a fire going in one, and then the next one we're playing Frisbee outside. So it's really cool to see that we did it over a really long time. But for me, I'm looking at it and seeing like, oh yeah, there's a clip of like the guys playing bocce ball, or they're like eating, stew in a clip, or they're like outside playing Frisbee or whatever. And in every single shot, I have like this concerned look on my face, and I'm like staring at like a compressor. It's like I'm just like completely, I had to work the whole time. It's just like me, but that's what I love to do the most. And for me, Gates is like a sandbox. It's like we get to do whatever we want, And over the many, many years, the guys have come to trust me fully in that department. Obviously, it's still an extremely collaborative process, but as far as like, hey man, you should use that guitar or whatever, they're just gonna know that I'm making that suggestion for a good reason. So they kind of fully trust me to engineer the record and produce it in that sense. I would still say the band produces it together, and then I mixed it too. I wanted to hire someone else to mix it, but I did rough mixes. They weren't even like an attempt to mix the song, and everyone in the band, our manager and the label, were all like, that sounds pretty much done, so you should just do it. So then I ended up doing it, which I'm glad I did. I think it was the final thing that like made it really sound like us to the core,
Yeah, and it does. It does. As soon as those first guitar licks kicked in Where to Begin, the feelings came up. And not a lot of bands do this to me, but I have a lot of personal, emotional attachment to the music of Gates. And as soon as the song started, I was like, oh my God, they're back. They're back.
Yeah, I feel like that was like, I think the song just being Where to Begin and kind of having that message and just like the way that it plays out and everything.
Yes, even the title, everything was just perfect for the return.
Yeah, it was just kind of just worked out really well. It was like not intentional at all. It was honestly just like, again, we were working with Wax Bodega as a label this time around, and Fred, who runs the label, was just like, I love this song, let's put it out first. We're like, all right, cool. It just happened to just have that vibe. I don't think he was thinking like, oh, it's called Where to Begin, we should do it. He was just like, I like the song. So
yeah, when those really cool things happen where everything lines up, I find more often than not, they just happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not thought that goes into it, because sometimes I'll be working on audio or video or stuff, and everything just like something will sync up perfectly, And I'm like, wow, if someone from the outside saw that, they'd think like I labored over that, but it just happened.
Yeah, and honestly, not to get totally like pretentious and crazy over the top about this, but the record's called Here and Now because we started realizing that it was just better to just jump on the thing that was hitting us right then, and like it kind of just that message just formed out of the record. All the lyrics ended up being about like trying to get over the past, and like all these things just kind of started lining up where we weren't going in to intend to do that way. We would record a song and then let's try to make a like an interlude going out of this song into another one, and then it would end up being the intro to a different song. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Now what are we going to have going out of here? And so we end up with this like record that sounds like we probably meticulously labored over making it like perfectly flow, but it just like accidentally made itself that way. It was like we just kept doing things like that. Even with like we made all the visualizers that you'll eventually see for all the songs. Like King will be sitting there and he'll put this animation over the background, and then all of a sudden it'll just line up with the music, and we're like, that's it. So we tried to embrace this kind of like idea of here and now. Once we had that concept, we were like, okay, we've been kind of doing that this whole way. Let's just keep going with that, where we just kind of don't question a lot of stuff. We don't overthink it, and we try to just follow what seems to be the easiest path of least resistance, So it's actually been really cool to do that and have the process kind of dictate what happened, even with the album art. Those guys flew out to Texas to meet up with their friend Rob. They had no idea what the cover was going to look like. It was like they didn't have any real ideas or anything. They just had a few locations, and they just kind of let themselves just be led to what they saw and the ideas that they had. The video, we had like a rough idea for that. And then, we had Tom meet up with us, and it ended up being like incredible. Like I couldn't even believe how cool it came out. So,
Same here. And I want to talk about that video. So who came up with the initial concept and how did we flesh it out? Because it looks great. The concept is great. I love everything about it.
Yeah. So Mike and Dan from Gates came up with the kind of general idea for the video. We all watched this movie Mandy that Nicolas Cage is in. If you haven't seen it, it's an incredible movie. We used to watch movies after we would practice, and we watched it when it came. It was probably the year it came out. Like time is nothing to me now, so I have no idea how long ago it was. But
I know that movie came out within the last couple years or so.
Yeah. We watched it together and we were just like, this is awesome. I mean, visually speaking, there was things happening in that movie that I just was like, every once in a while you see something and you're like, this is just incredible. And the soundtrack was great. And it's just like a really cool movie. So the video is kind of an homage to that. I saw, I think one person online noticed it. And I was like, yeah, like for sure. We definitely like looked at scenes of that movie and tried to recreate them in camera, so it's very much inspired by that. And we were mostly going for like visual aesthetic to like feel like the song, so we didn't necessarily have this like, plot laid out in mind. Again, like for Parallel, I had all these video ideas where I had like a full plot, and it was like, we didn't make any of them, so let's go in and not have it be so complicated that we can't accomplish it. Let's have a couple ideas, buy some smoke bombs and see what we can do. And most of the idea was just to do this stuff in camera. Like, let's try to get the shot looking cool in camera. And 90% of the video is like that, it was like tinted a little bit and there's some effects on it. But like, we got those looks from, Tom just shooting and being able to see what those guys were envisioning and just get it onto the camera. So Tom Flynn, who did the video, actually was an engineer on like parts of Bloom and Breathe. Like he recorded the drums on that record or something. And then he was like, I don't think I'm going to record music anymore. I think I'm going to get into video. And so it's kind of awesome that after so many years, we were able to actually work with him in that capacity, for something completely different. But he absolutely nailed it, like he just got what we were trying to do. And, him along with Mike and Dan King, who just were able to kind of give him the feedback to make it exactly how we wanted it. And, I was personally blown away. I mean, I flew out to to New York kind of bummed a little bit because we were supposed to practice that weekend. And then we realized like, oh, we need to shoot this video if we're going to do it. And I was just like salty because I hadn't played music with anyone in like, you know, a really long time. I was like, I just want to play, you know? And then I was like, do we even need a video? You know, I was just like trying to come up with any reason not to have to do it. And then, you know, once I saw it, I was like, oh my, I'm so glad we did this. Like it just, for me, was just like a really good representation of the song and the visuals that, you know, you will see as this comes out and everything. Like, Dan and Mike are in control of almost all that stuff. So it's just really cool to have that always be a part of our band too, where it all ties in. And, you know, I'm not saying we didn't overthink it all still, but we tried to very much just let things that were gonna work like happen, you know, and let the story of the record and let like the concept of the record and let the visuals of the record and everything just bring themselves out from where they were hiding, basically, as opposed to like forcing them to be anything, you know. And we loved that process. I don't think we'll ever go back to like, you know, being like, no, we gotta play this song. Like it was just so like, actually that song I wrote 2 days ago, like throw out the one we've been working for 5 months. We're doing that one. You know, it's just like we just literally just followed what felt the best to us. There was no preconceived notions at all. We didn't even have a label when we made the record. You know, it was like there was nothing to be like concerned about. We could just do whatever we wanted. And, you know, it was fantastic. So
It sounds like things changed a lot from Parallel Lives, the last LP. Now, when I spoke to you last, Kevin, you know, it sounded like there was a lot of expectations for the record, and I think you even said the band separated for a while after the record came out, yes?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it was. I think we were probably not playing for just under a year after, from like 2017 to 2018. So
how did this new experience compare? It sounds like we're just trying to take a different approach.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just again, it's just a. I think it was a initially a product of the circumstance. We work with Mike Watts for 2 records. Loved working with him. I mean, I still think Parallel is an incredible record. He helped us get it exactly how we wanted it.
Yes, and it is.
Yeah, and we were super happy with that. There was absolutely not working with Mike again had nothing to do with him necessarily. It was like we knew we didn't have a label budget, and we didn't want to go to a label without any music and be like, give us money to make a record, because we didn't even know what we were going to make. You know, it was, again, we didn't have any idea. Was it going to be an EP? Was it going to be a double album? We don't know. We'll just go until we feel like it's done and just stop, you know? So because of that, and because of the way we started going about things, we wrote 3 songs, demoed them, and then picked one, and it was Pretending, which is on the EP, and we recorded it. And then we were like, okay, that's cool. And like I said, then I think we were like, we should write like an instrumental outro to this song. And that ended up being the intro track of the record out of nothing, because then I wrote Where to Begin based on the riff from Out of Nothing. I realized I had a chord progression that was in 7/8 and like matched up with it and was in the same key. So then I wrote that song based on that. So it was like everything just bounced off of one another. And we couldn't have done that if we went into a studio like, all right, we got to record 10 songs. You know, it just wouldn't have worked out the way it worked out. We didn't want to have to take a month off work or whatever. You know, we wanted to just be able to do it on our own time and just experience it in a different way. And I don't think, because I don't live in New York anymore, as a huge part of it, I don't think we'll be able to record that way again. I think, you know, the next thing we do will probably have to be done all at once or like in bigger chunks. But it was a really, really cool way of doing it. For me, I can hear myself getting progressively better, like as the record goes. I'm sure I mixed it all in February, so like everything's like was mixed at the same time, so that kind of gave it that like uniformity. But it was kind of cool to be like, all right, I learned from that last song what not to do for this song, and what to do for this song. You know, again, you go to record, you do all the drums in 2 days, and then they're done. You know, with this, we could learn because we were doing it all ourselves, and I was going to be fully, you know, responsible for everything. It was like, all right, now I can learn for the next song. So it was just about like convenience for how we were currently operating, really more than anything. When we decided to come back, it was like, well, we can't come back to the capacity that we were doing before. I don't want to drive out to Jersey 4 days a week and write a record like that. You know, let's figure out how to do it a way that's manageable for everybody.
How did you do it? Are people working remotely? And where do you actually record it? Are they meeting up with you in Brooklyn to lay parts down? How does it work?
It was so like kind of random. Basically, most of the songs, if not every song, was started off in my Brooklyn apartment. Somebody would come over, one or two guys. It usually wasn't the whole band, and would either have an idea or I had something that I would play them, and we would add stuff to it. So it'd be like, I have a electronic drum beat and a little guitar part and a kind of like a mumbling vocal melody. And then Ethan would come over and be like, ooh, that's cool. And he would come up with a guitar part and be like, oh, wow, that's a really cool guitar part. What if we put that here? What if we did this? What if we extended this out? Do that for 2 or 3 hours, put that on Dropbox. And then it was usually a test, like if somebody else in the band was like, what's that? That's really cool. You'd be like, all right, we should work on that a little more.
So if you hear nothing, you know that we might need to move on to the next idea.
Yeah, that's usually what we call the Dropbox test, which is if you put an idea in Dropbox and no one says anything about it, it's just like probably never going to be a song. But then there's also times where it's like, I was so stoked on that. No one said anything about it. I was like, oh, I thought I texted you about it. It's sick. You know, it's like, it's not always a fail safe thing, but
yeah.
But yeah, usually it was that, you know, it was like, I remember when I put the Where to Begin demo on the Dropbox, I was like, if no one says anything about this, I'm going to lose my mind. Cause I was like, this is the best song I've ever written for sure. And I met up with Dan King to go to a show or something like that next day. And the first thing he said was like, dude, that demo is crazy. And I was like, all right, this is definitely going to be a song. Like, and that was one of the ones where we just, you know, we demoed that out in, I had the demo. It sounds pretty much near identical to what is on the record, minus like you can basically, if you add everyone in my band playing on top of it, you get the song that you hear now. You know what I mean? Like it just sounds like that with everyone else just like stripped away, you know? So it's kind of hilarious, but I think we're going to put the demo out on the Japanese CD that we're pressing. So it'll be available at some point. But yeah, it was just kind of like that. It was like, make that demo. Everyone likes it. They start adding parts to it. We start taking away other things. We mess around with it. And once we felt like it was a good enough song, we went into the studio and recorded it for real. And then we did the next thing. You know, it was very like, it was kind of weirdly methodical, but also like not really so. And a lot of the stuff I did in Brooklyn ended up on the track. You know, it's like, it's a song called We Are where I made the beat initially on this like little sampler I have, and we just left the sample in there because it had this like cool groove to it. You know, it kind of dictated how the groove of the entire song was going to be. So things like that was like, we'll just leave that in there. You know, it's cool, it's interesting, it's weird. So they were kind of constructed in a weird way of like demo, taking the same exact demo file and recording on top of that. And then like getting rid of anything from the demo we didn't like, replacing it with stuff in the actual studio, redoing the vocals and then mixing it and then finishing it.
Yeah, it sounds great. And, you know, it's got to be great to have a producer engineer in the band as well, because you can navigate all that and you know what works and what doesn't. And it sounds like the guys trust you. You know, I was going to ask, does it ever get difficult? Because not only are you a member in the band writing songs and recording, but you also have to tell people, hey, maybe try this or maybe try that. But based on what you've said, it sounds like they trust you.
Yeah, at this point, for sure. At this point, there's not a lot of arguing about stuff per se. Again, I feel like we kind of avoid that by just getting rid of anything that has any even hint of that. You know what I mean? It was like, I think people would probably be surprised how many songs we actually wrote and then just didn't use on this or didn't finish all the way. It's like, you're probably wondering why it took us 5 years to finish like what's essentially a 6-song EP. To us, it feels like a record, but it's because we just like, if anything, if there was hesitation about anything, we just got rid of it. There was it's not the kind of thing where like, you know what you should do? It's like, everyone kind of just knows, it's like, well, I can tell like Dan's not really stoked on that verse. So this song kind of sucks then. Right. It's like the song had to be, every single person had to be like crazy about it, and if there was I remember the last track on the record, Ethan hated it. He fucking hated the song. I mean, he was pissed about it. He's like, I don't get this song. We were in Brooklyn and I was like, dude, this song has to be on this record. Like 100%. This is like, I felt like it was really cool. It was definitely a me song for sure. It was something that I kind of like conjured up out of nowhere and was like really pushing hard. And Dan King really like flourishes on it too. And Mike plays this really cool synth line. It's like, it's just an interesting song that was kind of more tailored towards other guys in the band. Whereas Ethan, he's kind of the lead guitarist now. Dan still plays these kind of lead melodies, but he'll migrate to keys, or he'll do a lot of like sampling on his pedals and do a lot more like ethereal kind of weird tonal stuff. And Ethan always kind of just sticks to like playing these like lead parts. At least he was during the writing of this. So this was one where he didn't really have that, so he kind of had to force himself to do something else. But once he figured out what to do and once he locked into it, his mind totally changed, and that's still possible. It's still possible that someone might not be super stoked on something and, we'll argue our way into making it really cool. Like We Are was another thing that I had a really strong idea for what the rhythm section should play. So, it needed to be that way or the song wasn't going to be cool. But that was a discussion of like, all right, you guys are pretty much going to have to learn something that I kind of give you. Are you cool with doing it that way? Or do we want to jam this out in the basement and kind of make it a different thing where like the origin of it is different, And so we kind of just agreed like, all right, well, the drum machine demo sounds cool. So let's basically copy that over and make the real drums play that groove, So again, there's things like that. It is mostly like producer hat stuff for me at this point, where it's like, trust me, I know what this is going to sound like at the end, and everyone does trust me that it's going to get somewhere really, really great. But I do think we just kind of by instinct pursued the ones that we knew would just like be really good songs, and like we were definitely playing some stuff early on that maybe kind of sounded like it was like a tribute to Gates of the Past kind of a thing where it's like, oh yeah, that could have been on Bloom and Breathe. You know what I mean? And then we're like, we don't want a song like that. We want a song that couldn't have been on any of our records, So we just would throw it out eventually and just do a different track,
That's a great approach and a brave approach, because so many times I've been in bands and you're laboring like, oh, we have to finish this song because it's a song and I don't love it, but I'll come up with one more riff and I guess it'll be done. And you guys just got rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like we definitely still try to do that. There's songs that are 10 years old, 15 years. I mean, we're still digging out parts and being like, there was one song, I can't remember what the demo, Spring Break is the demo name for it. We have been trying to make that a song. That was a Parallel Live song that didn't make the cut. And I swear we tried to jam it another 10 times for this. It was like, no. If we make the verse the chorus, it's going to be a great song. Like, and we always do is we get it out and we change it around a little bit and it never quite gets there. One day it might. I do think that there's something to it, but and admittedly, I think also because of the way we write now, it's a lot less like, well, this riff goes into this riff really cool. It's a lot more like, that's a good song. It kind of requires me to connect with it and come up with like vocals and a kind of like lyrical idea that everyone can get behind. So there'll probably be that moment in a song and you're like, oh, wow, that's what we're trying to do. Like, that's really cool. And we'll kind of pursue a song that has a more, I guess, developed kind of vocal idea over something that doesn't. Because again, it's just easier, you know. It feels less forced for us. It feels a little more like natural, or it's the same concept I've been talking about, where you're like, that just kind of easily came out of me. So why would I spend months like trying to force myself into a weird place when this thing is just coming to me so easily? Or I could just as easily pick up the guitar and just try to come up with a new thing that might just flow right out of me, you know? So yeah, we try to do that. We're in the preliminary talks of like what our next thing is going to be. And we have a bunch of songs that we wrote for Here and Now that honestly we wrote to be on the record, but with the pandemic and everything, we realized like, oh, this is really cool the way it is, and we should put it out like that, because we could keep going with this, but I think this stands on its own. And if we don't put it out, it's going to be another like 3 years before anyone hears anything. So this sounds great. This is awesome. Like, and then we have stuff that, you know, is like, we're like, all right, cool. Let's see what we can do with this stuff. But who knows what's going to happen? You know, all of that stuff could get thrown out because we get together once and write like something completely different, and we just start pursuing that instead. So we have all these ideas that are cool now, but like, you know, I tend to do this thing where I open up Notepad and just start writing out like, all right, track 2 would be this demo, totally. And then that would go really good in track 3. And, you know, this stuff never ends up being what the record is, because you just, you know, someone's going to do something else that we all just are like, that's the thing, you know, like, you know, what's that drum beat or whatever. And we just do something, and that'll end up being the like where to begin of the next record, you know? So it's just kind of like about following that and allowing yourself to kind of go down those paths. We don't have a lot of time, you know, it's not the way it used to be where we just have a lot of time to just sit around and like I said, get together 4 days a week and just mess around. So when we are together, we've kind of tried to learn to streamline the process and just trust each other and do what feels best as soon as possible. So we're not like wasting a lot of time just working on stuff we know isn't going to work out.
Right. And it sounds like you guys have known each other long enough, and you've been doing it long enough that you can get down to business and get it done. And yeah, who knows? Everything you've written might go out the window because you're on to something else. But it sounds like your instincts and the band's instincts are dead on. So you just got to follow wherever the right way is.
For sure. I mean, dude, I trust these guys just as much as they trust me to do something that's going to make me love the song. I always say it, like, I've tried to make my own solo music for years, and it's really difficult for me because every song in Gates was something that, you know, either someone else wrote and sent over that was like, whoa, like, what is that? And I got real stoked on it, and we like turned it into a song. Or it's something that I wrote that I was like, this sucks, and I put it online, and then someone in Gates added something to it that made me love it. You know, so like none of them, it's very rare there's something that I'm like fully formed, like I made, that I think is good without needing anyone else to kind of put their thing on it. And so for me, Gates is just like an awesome way to give this, like, the bones of something I made, or for somebody to do the same thing, and for each other to kind of put our take on it and make it what the group loves, you know, make it something that all 5 of us agree is super cool, you know. And that can be tough, but because we have this chemistry and friendship, you know, like we weren't playing, but we were hanging out. And I honestly think Ethan moved to Nebraska, and then he was coming back to New York and just like coming over, and we were still writing stuff. I mean, we stopped, but we just kept going. You know, it was like, we didn't stop hanging out. We hung out all the time. I mean, I saw all these guys a bunch.
You just weren't in like the industry cycle anymore, tours, next record, like all that stuff.
Right. We didn't have like a record waiting, or like, oh, you just booked this awesome tour, you got to get something going. You know, we just had stopped doing that, but we were still going, and the wheels were always turning, because I just think there's this, I can't even explain it. This just like, there's nothing else like it. It's really hard to explain to people that don't understand it, and especially it's weird for us too, because we're the same lineup that we have always been and everything. It's just like there's this camaraderie between us that even when there's like a frustration, or you know, we're not seeing eye to eye, there's just like this level of respect that it's like impossible to get from anything else. So I think because that's always there, we tend to end up being successful as a partnership, because I respect every one of these guys for what they bring to the table, and I know they feel the same way about me. So we're able to accomplish things that we can't accomplish on our own, and I truly believe that. And it's been an absolute pleasure to work with these guys again on yet another piece of music that I consider to be the best thing that we've done.
Yeah. And now is the time, Kevin. Now is the time to release this thing. And I'm super excited about it. Like, I listen to a lot of music and I check out a lot of bands. I hear a lot of records. But when I see new Gates news, it is a special kind of excitement. And you want something new out now because you got a tour coming up, right?
We do.
You're going to be out with The World is a Beautiful Place and Bent Knee.
Correct.
Yes. And that kicks off November 3rd at Lincoln Hall in Chicago. Folks, if you live in Chicago, you are not going to want to miss this show. I mean, come on, you've got to go. You've got to do it.
Got to do it. Chicago is one of our favorite places to play, too. I'm really excited to start in Chicago. And I'm excited to play shows. I mean, honestly, this was something that the world is asked us to do during the pandemic. And we were all kind of laugh like, well, sure, but it's probably not going to happen. And then it got postponed a couple times, and now it's happening. We're like, oh, sweet. Like, we have a tour lined. Like, again, another thing that we're like, instead of saying no and being like, well, that'll never happen, we're like, yeah, sure. And then it just worked out. It's like, I'm not saying everything is working out. Like, the vinyl delays are like killing us right now and things like that. You're like, I don't.
Everybody, everybody has delays unless you're the Rolling Stones, I guess.
100%. Like, it's like, yeah, we probably won't have the record for the tour. Whatever. It's everyone understands it, but like things like that where you're like, wow, we actually are going to have like a run of shows to play. We've played a couple shows with World Is in the past, and like we've always been like, we should tour with that band. It makes total sense. So it's really cool to be doing it with them. Really awesome that they asked us to go out with them after like we didn't have it. I mean, there was no indication. I think originally the tour was going to be in June. Like, our record wouldn't have been out by then, like they just did it because they're like, oh, can you guys play shows? Will you? Like, so it's really, really cool that they asked us to do that and that it happened to work out this way. I'm really, really happy that we'll have new music to play. And I'm sure there'll be a couple of people who, are bummed we're playing a short set or whatever, but we've wrote like a real ripper set that we're super excited to play every night. It's going to be like just really, really fun. Yeah. I'm excited to actually like go on stage and play and go on tour. We've played a couple shows since we've fired back up again, but we have not gotten in the van since 2017. So
wow.
Man.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be really fun.
2017. That's like a lifetime ago.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And that was like, it was a headlining tour we did, and we kind of knew, we're like, oh, this might be the last tour we do for a while. Like,
that was the first time I saw you with, was it first or second? Was that when you were out with Vasudeva?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Head North. Yeah.
Yes.
Really fun tour. Everyone in there, like Ben Lieber, who's in Head North, he took the photos that you're probably seeing at this point of us in January of 2020 for the record. Originally, honestly, we were thinking about putting this record out in pieces, like 3 songs at a time for a while. And that we were pretty dedicated to doing that in like February of 2020. And so he took like promo photos for us, and then we didn't use them until now. So like Dan King has like super long hair, like a mustache now. And like, he's got like short hair in the photos. It's like, yeah, we don't look like that anymore. But the photos are so cool. We're like, we got to use them. And Ben like kills it now. He's a videographer. He did a lot of like the cut down videos for us, like for like our promos and stuff. So it's cool to be working with him. It's like, I feel like we always like, we have this thing that's like, I guess we kind of call the Gates family, where like we just meet these people through our band, and through sheer luck, or like at least the other guys in my band being super nice and personable, like we all become friends, and then you just kind of form this community, and you feel like you get to work with all these people in some capacity, you know, and you've been like waiting to work with them for years, and somehow this stuff always manages to work out, you know. It's like Drew, who played in the band Sean for a while, like he is the guitarist in this band that I'm mixing right now, where I didn't even realize he was in the band. Like I met this band through another band I recorded, and then it was like, oh, he called me and was like, oh dude, I'm in this band. And I'm like, that's crazy, you know. It's like, and it's just cool, like there's this community that you just build over the years that, you know, I just feel lucky to be a part of. So it's kind of cool going back into that and knowing, okay, we'll be touring, and it'll be super crazy. It'll be, you know, masks, never leaving the green room, like COVID tests every day. Like it's definitely not going to be a tour where, you know, unfortunately we're going to be able to hang out a lot, but just to be able to get out there and play the shows, and it'll give us more time to kind of just hang out with the other artists, I think, you know, which is always a real treat on tour. You kind of just get into conversations and things with other artists that you probably wouldn't have a chance to otherwise. So,
because you're spending more time together, a lot more time.
Yeah, for sure. So I know Chris from The World is somebody we've met a couple times, but like everyone always thinks I look like him. So, and we have like a lot of weird shit in common. He's also a fantastic producer. Not saying I'm fantastic, but he is a fantastic producer. We had like the same guitar for a while, and like I know like one of his favorite movies is Alien. It's like one of my favorite movies. So, like we like always joke around online wherever, like we should trade spots and see if anyone notices or something. I wanted to start a band with him and Dave from Pianos Become the Teeth for a while, because like the three of us kind of look alike. And on the Pianos tour, like people would come up to me and be like, "You're the best drummer," and I'm like, "Thanks." Like they thought I was him, you know. So like I always wanted to start like a trio with them because we all look the same. People would just get confused as to who did what. But yeah, man, it'll be really fun. I mean, I'm just looking forward to it.
When was the last time you played a show?
It was December of 2019. We played a holiday show with our friends in Mercy Union in Asbury Park. It was super cool, but Ethan had like a fever of 104.
Oh my God.
And he like powered through it, and it was like a co-headliner, so we actually played like a pretty decent amount of tracks. And it was a great show. It was super fun. But then like, you know, 3 months later, and I don't think we even, honestly, at this point, we're like, you know, we've been out of the game so much, it's kind of hard to like get back in the touring game when you haven't played or put out music or anything, you know? So again, like credit to The World Is for like asking us to be a part of the tour, because, you know, they just as easily could have picked a band that was like, you know, actively doing a lot more or had like a lot more going on, you know, and they just wanted to tour with us because they liked us, and you know we like them and want to do it with them. So it's just a really cool opportunity. So
yeah, I was going to ask, do you have to email them or email somebody to ask to get on a tour? And they asked you, so that's great.
Yes, yeah, they did. And their manager is my friend Anthony too, which I think, you know, I'm always talking to him, so I think that probably helped out in some regard too. But you know, it's just, again, it's a community thing. It's like, I've been friends with him forever. He worked at Voodoo Studios when Gates was there. I produced his old band's record, and we've just kept in touch, and we've become friends through that. And again, to me, you know, looking forward and working with a lot of artists too, that, you know, a lot of the artists I work with are maybe playing rock music, or, you know, I work with all genres, but, you know, some of them are playing music or just starting out or whatever, and they're looking at, you know, TikTok, and they're like, "Oh, how do I got to make like a viral TikTok video if anyone's going to listen to my music and stuff." And I get it's insane. I mean, like we have to do this rollout now where we're doing all this social media stuff, and luckily we have some people to help out with that. But it's like, I got to basically post all this stuff, and I basically deleted all my social accounts before this. So like getting back into it, it's intense. Like it's really intense on the mind. And when you're a new artist and you don't have a following, you got to start from zero. So like, I can't imagine being like, I wrote this song and I have to put it out into a world where people are just liking just stuff. Like the internet is for stuff. It's not for really made for art like that. You know, it's just made to be a place where you see just some funny stuff or whatever. Like a really important news article will be right next to someone trying to be funny on Twitter, you know? And it's like, it's kind of hard to look at that and be like, well, why did that stupid joke get 30,000 likes or whatever? No one liked my song. It's like, well, because people just are looking for dumb jokes on Twitter. They're not looking for your song, you know? So to me, it's about that community thing. You know, reach out to the bands that you know, make friends with bands that you like. Like that is how we are still doing this and even got any opportunities when it came down to this. You know, it's like, and that to me is way more rewarding at the end of the day, to have like a smaller group of people that I respect, that we constantly work together. And, you know, it's just something that like I still kind of like treasure about being a part of this band and being a producer even, and creating my own community of artists that I've worked with, where I start to think like, oh, this person would collaborate with this artist really well, or they should tour together, or I should get in contact with this label that put out this record to put out this other record. It's like you start to build this community up, and you're able to help and lift each other up, and also just be interested in what each other are doing. And that draws other people in too. And I try to kind of encourage people to look at it a little more zoomed in, as I say, and kind of like, you know, not get so hung up on the fact that like everyone in the universe isn't looking at what you're doing. Like, you know, you're making something that's really important to a group of people, and that is always ultimately going to be way more rewarding to me.
That's great advice, because with our podcast is a 3-man operation, me and Tommy, and then our friend mixes it, and he's our friend. And, you know, when we started out, we talked to our friends, and we didn't have any grand ideas about this big universal thing. We talked to our friends. We still talk to our friends, and it grows from there. You just got to start with what you know and start with who you know, and I think and grow it from there.
For sure. I mean, that's what this scene was originally about to me. You know what I mean? It just felt like that from day one. So to continue to be able to do that and keep that mentality going, you know, I think it's just really, really awesome. And, you know, I feel honored to be a part of that, you know, and even doing this with you guys the second time here and be able to talk to you and everything, I know that there's that thread of that mentality as well. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
So I just love that about this music scene and how I've been able to kind of be a part of it for so long. You know, it's really cool to be able to still be doing this and put out a Gates song and have so many people be excited about it, and hopefully get a few new people on board as well. And it's just like an absolute honor for me to be able to do it. So,
well, Kevin, let's recap. Now, the new EP, Here and Now, it's dropping on October 29th. So folks, the minute it's up, we want to get it. We want to listen to it. So is there going to be physical releases? How can we support you? It sounds like vinyl's backed up.
Yep, but we are doing vinyl. You can pre-order it on the Wax Bodega website. We have a link on all of our social medias for that. We have merch bundles with that. We will have merch on tour. We will have Japanese import CDs on tour from Friend of Mine Records. We will, you know, if you order the vinyl, you will eventually get it, I promise. But you know, as every artist is having right now, it might be a little backed up, but yeah, we're working on that. And honestly, just coming out to the gig, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, hopefully there'll be another one. I totally understand. But, you know, if you want to support, the best thing you can do is probably just share it with somebody else you think might really like it. You know, that goes a really long way for us. So I think most of our fans came from word of mouth of somebody being really excited about it and saying, hey, you really got to listen to this, to somebody else that they knew would connect with it. So I think you might forget sometimes how important that is, but even just sharing the song on Instagram, or like just showing your friend, or like putting it on your playlist or whatever, it really helps us out, you know, to just get it into people's ears and again, just kind of build up our community a little more, have a few more people involved in it. You know, we're trying to be, I always try to respond to messages and everything I get, because to me it is important to keep supporting and having that place, you know, where like if you listen to our music, you're hopefully not going to be just kind of like listening to it in a void, you know, you're like part of this thing that we're trying to make. So
yes, and I feel that way, you know, it's like a fan of Gates is a real fan of Gates. It's not like, I just listen to Gates. It's like, no, I listen to Gates. Yeah. I feel Gates. I get that from the people I know who like the band as well.
For sure, and that is like insanely cool to me. Again, that's like the embodiment of I can't have a conversation about the weather, but I'll talk to you about like the preamp I used on the recording for 8 hours. Like people who really love our band are going to be able to like listen to what we just talked about and like find enjoyment out of it. And like that's what I'm able to talk about, is what I spend my entire life trying to work on, is making music, making records sound great. It's like I can only really talk about stuff that I've been really studying to the point of like I think I know what I'm talking about here. I'm like 80% sure I know what I'm talking about. So it's always good to meet people who are just music fans and they want to tell me about music. They want to talk to me about recording. I've been teaching classes on Zoom about recording. It's like met some people through that. So it's just, again, a really cool thing and a way for me to meet friends and people as someone who can't really do that in any other way. And just have this huge community of people that, I trust and love, and that we get to make music together or share the experience of the music that Gates has made. So, we appreciate you, and we love every one of you guys, and we appreciate the patience of waiting for so long for us to kind of put this thing together. But I think anyone who's liked our band over the years will really enjoy this record. Honestly, I can say that like with pretty utter confidence. It's definitely like unrecognizably Gates at this point, and that I don't think it's exactly what we've done in the past, but it like sounds like our band because it is our band. So I'm really excited about it, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Awesome. So yeah, folks, the first single is out there right now, Where to Begin. Check it out on streaming services. Make sure you watch the video too on YouTube. Honestly, I don't watch music videos most of the time, but this one was really good. Really nice looking. I love the concept. I love everything about it. The EP is coming out on Wax Bodega. Search them out now. You can do a pre-order. And once again, Gates will be out on tour with The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. And Bent Knee, the first date is November 3rd at Lincoln Hall in Chicago. Go check out the tour. They're stopping in a lot of cities. And Kevin, as you know, I'm a fan of the band. I'm a fan of what you do. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us once again. And I want to thank you and the band for what you do.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm really glad we got to do this. I know we talked about it when we were talking last. I was like, well, I'll actually have new music soon. So we should talk about that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. And again, being a part of this and supporting bands like us who need stuff like this for people to be able to hear, and just like having this community and having people to talk to. So huge thanks to you guys.
There you have it, folks. Kevin Dye. Excellent conversation. We got to hear a lot of behind the scenes about Here and Now, the upcoming EP. And it's really nice to talk to him. Tommy, that's one of those conversations where we're just really rolling and it's really natural. And then I have to break in to be like, wait, we got to talk about the album too.
It's another thing is that Kevin's really good at talking about the production that he does and how he works with music in a way that's relatable. So it's like somebody like myself that doesn't know the ins and outs of the studio stuff. He can kind of break it down in a way that's understandable and like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing. I understand what your focus is when you do that. Like that's huge.
My favorite part was when he said he took it to be mixed and the guy was like, this is basically already done. Because it just shows that he doesn't have an ego. Like he wants the best for the production and he's not like, oh, well, I got this. So he brings it to the guy and the guy's like, no, this is pretty much done. So, I mean, he had already done such a great job with it. And he did, Tommy. Like, I know he said that it wouldn't sound that great on the SoundCloud, but I listened to the Advance on SoundCloud with headphones, and it sounded fantastic. Something I wanted to say in segment 1, which I forgot. I had kind of a realization, Tommy.
Yeah.
This was one of those like shower moments of clarity.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, man, Gates' music really gets me, and I think the music that we really attach to, it's like the moments and the experiences and the emotions that we have when we first discover that music. Like I was talking about in segment 1, Gates I discovered at a time when there was a lot of changes in my life and just a lot of going on and self-discovery and all this stuff. So Gates will forever be a very emotional band for me that makes me think of that time and new experiences that I have now. You know, like all this stuff is going on now, and it's like their new song is called Where to Begin. It's just like they're always like right on with what's going on. And another example, like Furnace Fest, seeing Killswitch Engage play The End of Heartache and the fest coming to an end and it being bittersweet. That song will forever remind me of that moment, and I'll love it forever because of that.
Have you ever had music ruined by a moment? Like you can't go back to music anymore because of what was happening at that time, even though you love that music?
Of course.
What was it?
Let me think.
What was the music? Because I have one off the top of my head that I know I loved, and then it was just like, never mind.
I can't think of a song offhand.
Okay.
That I won't listen to anymore, but I can think of people having adverse reactions to songs I like, and then when the song comes on, I'm like, oh, that person didn't like this. Fuck them. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think I love the music so much. I'll tell you, I could never watch, even though it's great and hilarious, I could never watch Kids in the Hall again.
Why is that?
Someone who I really, really, really dislike really liked that show, Kids in the Hall, and when I think of the show, I think of him, and now I'll never be able to watch it again, which is sad.
That is sad. Mine is Explosions in the Sky.
Oh, why?
I love that record, and then I brought it to visit a old girlfriend, and she was like, "This isn't even that good," and I was like, "I'm okay, what?" Like, and I remember being like so disappointed. I'm like, "But this is an amazing band. Like, I've never heard anything like this." And why can't I think of the name of it? The one with the writing all over the front, like it just has like script.
The World Is Not a Cold Dead Place.
There you go.
That is a phenomenal EP. She, Tommy, is incorrect.
She is incorrect, but it also it's kind of the same thing. It brings up that memory of that person when I listen to it, and it's forever kind of like etched in my brain as like, ugh, never mind. Like I don't get the goosebumps like I used to when I listened to that. I don't get the goosebumps I used to when I listened to that when I first heard it. That moment forever kind of changed it for me.
That's a shame because that EP is so good. Your Hand in Mine is like one of the best songs ever.
It certainly is. I love that guitar break in the middle. Holy God.
There's a lot of songs that make me too sad. Like, here's one. Hammock has a single called The Night You Caught on Fire.
Oh, yeah.
That reminds me of my friend Oren, who I've mentioned on the show.
Yeah.
Who tragically overdosed and died in 2018. Like, it's almost like the lyrics just fit the situation so well that I only break that one out every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... yeah, I guess some songs make me sad, so I won't listen to them as often, but I can't think of one that I just won't listen to. Now, Tommy, I gotta know, how are you doing? We haven't spoken in almost 3 hours.
I'm doing great. I had off today because of Indigenous Peoples Day, and then my school is closed for this week because we had several COVID cases, so I'll be teaching virtually for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week.
So now, do you like that or do you not like that?
I'm torn. I like it because I don't like to, the commute I have in the morning is kind of a pain in the ass sometimes, and the commute in the afternoon can be bad if I have, there's a lot of traffic. But I don't not like being in front of the kids. I like that my day gets shortened significantly, but not being in front of the kids and not being able to see what they're writing and help them through the problems, it really kind of breaks my heart because it's like we're getting into more difficult stuff, and I'm like, I need to see how you wrote the equations.
Yeah, because I remember you said you'd like to be there. It's easier to control the class. It's easier to teach. So,
and I don't lose kids. Like when kids are home and they're on their phone or they're watching Squid Games on their TV, like fucking like that kind of shit. Like fuck, man. Like I can't compete with that.
Oh, speaking of Squid Games,
yeah, you like that fucking segment there?
First of all, that was a great segue. Tommy, you're just becoming a pro at this. Second of all, something unprecedented has happened, folks. Now, usually I'm on the cutting edge of everything that's going on and I have to catch Tommy up. Tommy has lapped me on Squid Games. Like he has seen it. He's on episode 2, and I have not watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
had
props
off,
to you, Tommy.
Well, I had off today and I kept the baby home from daycare. So I was like, well, we'll just hang out today. And then when she took a nap, and she's a really good napper, she sleeps for like 2.5, 3 hours at a clip. So I put her down at like 1:00. I did some grading, put some stuff in, and watched Squid Games while I was doing it. The overdubbing is a little bit weird because it's clearly like a Korean show and they dub it in English. So like their mouths don't line up all the time exactly with what they're saying. But you get
Now,
the basic.
Tommy, do you watch the English dub or do you watch Korean language with English subtitles?
I watched the English dub today because I was entering grades and I want to be able to pay attention to what I'm doing on the screen.
I see.
When I watched it after I was done grading, I watch it in Korean with the English subtitles because I actually want to hear what they're really saying. Like I want to.
Yeah, I want to see the actual acting. The English subtitle stuff or the English overdub, but they're not going to be able to pull that off.
But yeah, I will be taking a short break from Instagram until I'm done because I noticed that everything is Squid Game now.
Every meme,
Everything.
I'm doing my thing, Tommy, where I'm like, everybody's talking about it, so I'm not going to watch it. I think there's like a tinge of that, but I think mostly I just don't watch a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I will watch this. It'll probably be the next thing I watch. I'm not refusing to watch it.
I'm actually going to reattempt this. I started like years ago Game of Thrones and I didn't get past episode 1. But I've had multiple people at work that I really like and respect that have said, you should really try it again. It is a great show with great character development. And I said, you know what? I respect your opinion. I'm actually going to give it another whirl.
It's a good show. I watched the whole thing week to week from the time it premiered to the time it ended. I wouldn't say it's in my top 5.
Okay.
But it's good. It's
a
good.
good
Tommy,
eat.
I meant to ask you.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched The Sopranos?
No.
I knew it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Because the Sopranos movie is out, Tommy.
Oh, the new, what is it? The Angels in Newark or something
The
like
Many Saints
that? Many
of
Saints.
Newark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I have to bring this up on the show, but I was like, oh, I'm going to be talking to myself. And there's no way Tommy has watched Sopranos because it's probably like the first or second best show ever made. So of course he hasn't seen it.
I need your HBO Go password again.
Well, it's already getting a lot of traction with some other people, so
Oh, never mind then.
I can't spread it.
I'll get my mom's. Don't worry.
Yeah, I watch Sopranos before you watch Game of Thrones, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that advice because I'll be honest with you. The fantasy realm isn't as appealing as kind of like gangster crime things to me.
Imagine Goodfellas, but it's like
Serialized.
6 seasons of television.
Yeah.
It's great. It's iconic. And let's see, what else is going on? There was something else I wanted to say to you, but I can't remember what. Oh, Tommy, in big podcasting news of our show, here, we'll count this as what's going on with me because
Okay.
this is really all that's going on. I bought one of those arm thing, like the microphone arm for your desk for podcasting.
Yeah, the hangy down mic thing.
Yeah, I bought one of those, so I'm an official professional broadcaster now. And I sent a picture to Tommy. I'm like, look what I got. Tommy, do you know what else I got?
What?
All right, you're going to like this. I got a brand new, super powered desktop PC.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, my PC is on its way out. It overheats. It's almost out of storage space, but it's also a laptop. Tommy, we need cutting edge technology to produce the audio and video content that we need for our show. And it may double as a gaming PC too now.
Oh, that's awesome.
But there will be a lot of work happening on it, and I'm going to use this as the motivation to finally start some home recording stuff as well.
There you go. What kind of computer is it, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, you know what? I have to give a shout out to Stacy Hilt from the Casket Lottery. Him and I talk about gaming and computer stuff, and I had no idea what to get. And I was like, Stacy, here's my budget. What should I get? And he gave me a recommendation. So thank you, Stacy, for that. And folks, if you haven't heard Stacy or Nathan from the Casket Lottery's episodes of our podcast, I highly recommend them. Go and do it. Now, Tommy, I got
So that's the how you're, because I feel bad not asking how you're doing.
Oh yeah, this is I'm so high from like ordering this PC and thinking about like, playing Warzone on PC and learning it there and getting better and all the production stuff I'm going to do. This is all I can think about. This is all the only thing going on with me because my streak of no news is good news is still going strong.
Nice.
So like nothing's going on except I'm really stoked on buying some stuff.
I got new pants from Costco. They were $11.99. They're like kind of like Carhartt kind of ones, so I can wear them to skate park. I put a hole in my other ones, and Kelly got real mad because they were ones I wore to work too. So,
all right. So Tommy got Costco pants, and I got a $3,000 gaming PC. Okay, CLX gaming desktop, Intel Core i7, 16 gigabytes memory, GeForce RTX 3060 Ti graphics card. 240 gigabyte SSD, 2 terabyte hard drive. Boom.
Done. I don't know.
Yes.
I didn't know what any of those things meant, except for storage. I understand storage.
I think the i7 is the best. Well, the i7 is the best processor I could get. The graphics card is not the best I could get, but it would have been like an extra $1,000 or something.
Get out, really?
Yeah, and the one that I selected is good. It's sufficient for what I'm doing. Because this PC will not be exclusively for gaming. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, so I can't clog it up with games, Well, yeah, that's all that's going on with me. Everything's good. I'm feeling good. This is my favorite time of year. I'm into the Halloween stuff. Every year I watch Halloween and Halloween 2. Well, I usually only get to the first Halloween. But Tommy, my plan this year is to watch Halloween, Halloween 2, and then Halloween, the 2016 movie, because that was really good.
Is that the Rob Zombie one?
No.
I like that one.
Yeah, it was okay.
Which the 2016? I got to look that up. I don't.
Yeah.
What did I watch the other night? And I was really. Oh, it was on demand. Stephen King's Children of the Corn.
Oh yeah,
that's a great film, man. I really, really like that one.
It's eerie.
That is
very eerie.
That is that. Yeah, that one isn't as scary as it is like unnerving. It makes you really uncomfortable. That movie.
It does. All right, well, we're out of time. You know what I'm going to ask for, and I'm going to keep asking for it until you give us what we want. Apple Podcast 5-star reviews. Write an actual review. We'll read it on the show. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the NE Scene. We're on the push to 3,300 followers on Instagram, and we're getting closer. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like the videos. Comment on the videos. And follow our 2021 Spotify playlist. We have all of our guests and other music we like. And that's about it, right?
That's it. I think you hit everything.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we're going to be back next week. So thanks, everybody, for listening. And until next time.